Hey Raiders, Jacko here with another Raid Shadow Legends video. So today we're going to do another one of my strange lists. Last time we did this on how terrible the armor is on the female champions, and in fact did our top 5 worst armored females. Today we're going to flip that around and we're going to do the top 5 worst male armors in the game. So let's go ahead and dive in. As always, the list will go from the best of the worst armor to the absolute worst of the worst armor. And to start that off, we're going to go ahead and come to a demon spawn character who's relatively new here, in Tarshan. Now, at first glance, Tarshan looks like he is decently armored. I mean, he's got the demonic skin and everything. He's got what looks like bone for a helmet. But the reason he's on this list is pretty simple. First of all, if you look at many of the other demons, specifically the other male demons, if we can find one, they are essentially naked, maybe a little bit of clothes, completely relying on that demonic skin aspect, unless they're fully armored. Like Lord Charizard is a terrible example, but Mortu Macabre, Califron, they're very well armored over that skin. However, Tarshan here is got a lot of skin exposed. I mean, he's got essentially no leg armor. He's got a bit of stomach, a bit of drape, and kidney protection. So he's actually protecting the middle of his body well. And he's got some shoulder protection. But he's not covering his chest. He's not protecting his arms. And he's not technically protecting his head, though we can assume that the bone protrusions on his head will make good armor. Now, the real reason that Tarshan is on this list, that he gets to be in our top 5 worst armor, is the shield. Aesthetically wise, the shield looks really cool. It's a very interesting shape. It's nice and large. It looks like it's probably made of some chitinous bone or chitinous carapace of some sort. Nice decorations and everything, but when it comes right down to it, it's not going to be effective as a shield. So this guy is wearing a little bit of armor, alluding to the fact that his hide is probably not significantly armored. He's using a shield, again alluding to the fact that his defense needs to be larger, that the armor he's wearing probably isn't enough to sustain blows, and then he goes ahead and picks up a shield that is going to expose large quantities of him. So, if we look at the shield, if he held it up in front of him, like a shield normally is, so kind of like that, the part of the shield that gets hit most, that protects you the most, is actually this top corner. This is the point where you push it up a little bit to block your face and your head. You move it to block other parts of your body. You can even punch across yourself to block your offside, your weapon side. That part of the shield, guaranteed, will be the first part of your shield that breaks. Every time. It's just how the mechanics of shields work. The rest of it, of a shield, is going to protect from the body blows on the left side or the front, and can even be shrugged around to use the bottom corners to protect the back of your legs, your butt, essentially, glutamus maximus, or your back. But the part that's going to take the absolute most punishment is that top corner. And Tarshan here doesn't have a top corner. In fact, he has this beautiful hole that slots into another hole. So that's essentially getting rid of all the protection of that top corner. So he's taking a shield that can't be used as a shield. It's ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. It's like taking a butter knife into a melee combat. Yeah, you might be able to make it work, but chances are it's just a useless tool. So he's weighing himself down with a useless tool. And by the fact that he's got armor, by the fact that he's got a shield, we can assume that he does actually want to protect himself. He's apparently just too dumb to know how to do that, sadly. So, for that reason, Tarshan gets our number 5 spot on worst armored male characters. And as such, he's going to get an overall aesthetic overview of 2 gourds for his armor. His weapons look great. His overall aesthetic is really cool, so he would be bumped up for there. But since we're looking at just the armor on this video, Tarshan just doesn't measure up. 2 gourds. Only 2 gourds. So at our number 4 slot, we've got one of our pointy-eared fellows, and he's actually a... Yep, there it is. He's actually a legendary. So Basilius Rhoenos. Basilius Rhoenos here is an archer. Again, this is one that's somewhat deceptive. So he's an archer. He's actually got pretty good armor on the legs, on the feet, even on the chest and everything. Even this ridiculous pauldron is probably not going to get in his way since he's an archer. As you see when he pulled the bow back, it doesn't actually run into his face. He can see through the thing, though it is going to obstruct his vision a little bit. And that brings us to the crux of why he's on this list. He's an archer, and he has literally no vision. Look at that helm. He can see maybe his feet, maybe, but otherwise he has metal in front of his eyes. Now, maybe he goes the Daredevil superhero route and can essentially hear everything on the battlefield. But there's been no indication in the Raid universe that people have that sort of power. His skills don't allude to it. Bolts of Scorn, Triple Puncture, and Majesty. Those don't allude to the fact that he can somehow have extra sensory sight past his own vision. And as an archer, especially as an archer, you're going to want to see what you're shooting. I mean, can you really tell if the pace of that random grunt that's in a desperate situation is one of your guys or one of their guys? I'm sorry. A commander, when you get over about 100, maybe 200 other people on the battlefield, you cannot tell who that person is except by their livery, their colors, their heraldry, their uniform. It's why uniforms were invented, is so that you know who the bleep is on your team in these fights. And you can't hear heraldry. I'm sorry. Basilius here, though he looks like he's going to be well armored and actually hold up in that regard, the fact that he has completely blocked his sight puts him on this list at number 4. And for an armor overall aesthetic, we're going to go ahead and actually give him a decent score because armor-wise, he does have good armor. We're going to give him a 3 gourd. However, the sight issue is terrible. And that's what puts him on this list at number 4. So, going down to number 3, we are going to get the first of our barbarians. And yes, there's more than one. Our legendary badass hitter, Atlan. So, from the stature and what we've seen from other barbarians, he's probably some sort of giant race. Just like Jotan and such. However, unlike Jotan, he decided that no armor is best armor. Atlan here has a little shin protection, a little waist protection, though he's not covering his actual, meaty parts of the leg, but he is covering the essential parts of the leg, the insides of the leg. So, pretty decent there. And then he's just rolled out of bed in what he's wearing and has gone to the battlefield and forgot to put on any upper body armor. So, as we've discussed previously on this channel and everything, the chest and stomach are where you store your vital organs. If you don't know this by now, go talk to a doctor. You probably need a little bit of edification on which parts of your body are vital. Head, chest area, groin, and inner legs. Those are your vital areas. You can lose a whole lot of your body, but you lose a significant portion of those, and you're a vegetable at the best. So Atlan here has decided that he really doesn't care about that. He's exposing himself to all the vital shots anybody can throw at him. Maybe he thinks he's a badass that he's going to block everything. But when it comes right down to it, when there are dozens of swords flying in your face, there are dozens of people attacking you and your line, the simple fact is you're going to take a hit at some point. It's just going to happen. Now, the purpose of armor is to turn whatever hit you took from something that incapacitates you to something that you can keep fighting through. Jotun here, I'm doing it. I should not have talked about Jotun. I am misnaming Atlan here all the time. My apologies, dude. Atlan here has decided that every hit he takes, he wants to make sure he can't fight through. That he is going to be off the field and off the battle. Maybe he just likes the ministrations of the Kyourgans. That might be his thing. So he goes out on the battle, gets a serious injury, goes right to the Kyourgan tent, and hangs out for the rest of the war there. Maybe that's his style. But as a legendary character, it doesn't seem like it's a very good style. He does have a helm here, and minus the horns, it's actually a pretty good helm. Given the horns and given the weapon he's wearing, he's probably going to knock his own helm off before it ever takes a blow from the enemy. It doesn't look to be strapped, and frankly, if it's not strapped and it's not a full helm, it's going to come off really quickly. That's why you see, football helmets, soldiers' helmets and everything have that little clip underneath. That's a strap. Pretty much every helmet that works in real life is going to have some sort of strap, either holding your chin, under your chin, something along those lines. If you're just relying on form fit for it to stay there, then any serious blow is going to knock it right off. And these horns are guaranteeing that Atlan here is going to knock it off himself. So, for those reasons, Atlan here gets our number 3 slot, and I am going to go ahead and give him an overall armor aesthetic of 2 gourds. At least he's got something on. That brings us to our number 2 over in the Ogryn tribes. Now, the Ogryn tribes are notorious for having no real armor. And Grimskin here is a perfect example of that. Apparently, slathering yourself in an oil spill is supposed to be protective. Yes, it'll make you slick. No, it will not let weapons slide off of you. That's just not how this sort of thing works. So, eventually, if I learn to talk, these videos will be nice and smooth. Grimskin here has literally no armor on. He's got a belt with a little bit of a drape. He's got some cloth wrappings around the arms, and a nice talisman necklace. That's it. He's decided that the best way to make sure he survives a battle is by being ugly enough that no one wants to hit him. Which is terrible. All you need is a match. Light up Grimskin and watch him run around screaming and burning to death. This is an easy champion to completely mitigate in a battle. If you don't want to go and find a match or Mordecai, to light this guy up, you just have to hit him once, which shouldn't be too difficult. Anywhere you hit him is going to take him out of the battle. Grimskin here has no armor. So how can we rate his armor? He's got none. As such, Grimskin takes our number 2 slot for worst armored male figures, champions in the game. Now, I'll be honest with you. A lot of the Ogryn tribes, I could have filled this list with Ogryn tribes. They have this penchant for not wearing armor, which is weird. I mean, if it was a troll tribes, then we could assume that their regeneration aspects would work in their favor and therefore make armor essentially obsolete. However, these are Ogryn tribes. Ogryn, ogre, they're essentially synonymous. So ogre tribes, in none of my readings of mythological creatures have I ever heard that ogres have regenerative capabilities. They have tough hide, but no more than leather, Definitely not even to boiled leather even. So why have they decided to make the Ogryn tribes completely ignore armor? I just don't get it. So, Grimskin here, as an overall armor aesthetic, he gets no gourds. He is on our 0 gourd list. But, because he's an ogre, because he likely has some thick hide, that's why we're placing him in number 2. Unlike our number 1 slot, which we'll come back to the barbarians for, and grab a Tur. A Tur here is not an ogre. He's a human, and we can assume that humans have human variety skin, aka rather easy to cut, puncture, flay, essentially dismember. He has a drape. I assume it's possibly for modesty's sake, though why he would choose to be modest about that portion of his body versus the rest of him. And he's got a little bit of a shoulder drape with some chainmail. So he does have some protection for the point of the shoulder and those portions of his body, which is actually okay. Those are portions that hurt a lot when getting hit. However, a Tur here is a scrawny human. Yeah, he's buff, but he's not, a deity. He's not an ogre or a lizard man or something like that that can run into battle with no armor and possibly survive. No, he is a regular J-random human, and he's left all of his vital organs exposed. This guy has come for the swimsuit edition of Raid Shadow Legends. This is not combat armor. It's just not. Even a Tur may have been able to take a hit due to his giant status, due to the fact that he is from the giant race. But a Tur here is just a squishy little human, and squishy little humans need armor. You can see that from the beginning of time, when people were strapping together pieces of bone to cover their vital organs, to modern times where people are using Kevlar and ceramic plates. Humans need armor to survive combat. It's just that simple. If you don't have armor, you will die in a melee. Even in modern warfare, you don't see soldiers running into a firefight without their vests. And why do they wear vests and not full suits of armor? Because the vests cover the vital points. A Tur has completely forgotten this concept. It's just sad. But at least he is only one of maybe half a dozen to a dozen examples of this aesthetic choice. Unlike the females who we could fill volumes about in this game, documenting the fact that they just don't wear armor. So a Tur gets our number 1 slot of the worst armored males champions in this game. And for that reason, and for the fact that he has come for the cosplay, for the swimsuit edition, and not for combat, we are going to go ahead and give a Tur an overall aesthetic armor review of no gourds. Smashed gourd. He just doesn't seem to get it. But he will have a great time on the beach with our lovely war maiden as they bask in the sun under the photographer's lights. Anyways, there you have it. Those are my top 5 worst armored males in Raid Shadow Legends. Join us next time as we look into something. You'll have to go ahead and hit that like, subscribe, and toll that bell to find out what the next video is going to be, because even I don't know. Anyways, thank you again for joining us. It does my heart great to see those subscription numbers keep popping up and those view numbers keep popping up. I really do appreciate the support. And with that, we'll see you next time on Jacko's Raider Rants.